Now it's sorry, my computer's fucking up. But yes, guys, you know what time is it? Your boy David at the Irish Hotspur, Ireland's #1 Tottenham fan. And this evening we bring you your Tottenham Weekly with co-host Jack, Sim from We Are Tottenham TV, and Sava from the Football Heritage. We have a number of talking points to discuss this evening, and the first one that we'll be talking about is, you know, in the past, Spurs have hired sort of win now managers to sort of appease Harry Kane, but with 1 year left on his contract, is that a route that Tottenham should go down and consider, or should they look to maybe plan without him? Also, we're looking at, you know, why is it taking 3 weeks to even get to an interview stage or even get to talking about an interview stage? Too long, in my opinion. Most people are saying 4 signings this summer, 2 centre-backs, a goalkeeper, and also a cam. But what I want to know, is that enough for us to compete next year, or just enough to scrape by? And also, why not? With Langley's injury, you know, it could be a case that you either have to pick between Tanganga and Sanchez. So just to pile misery on your Tuesday evening, we'll also be talking about that. But Jacko, how are you keeping, my man?
Doing okay, Dave. Since you've returned, you know, Harry Kane, of course, has to be the main topic of discussion, and his future will certainly be discussed now that you've made the return. And yeah, having Sava and Sim here to, I guess, always fix the ever crisis of Spurs. I guess nowadays.
Not that they listen to us, because if they did, I think Tottenham would be fixed right now. But Sim, how are you keeping, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing all right, Dave. Glad to be back on the show. Thanks for having me on. Just trying to kind of not think about Spurs all the time, which isn't conducive when you're a full-time Tottenham YouTuber and you have to do it as your career. So there you have it. My mental health is taking a battering, but hey ho, we move on.
Well, try to anyway. Try to. I mean, the games just get worse. But Sava, how are you keeping, my man?
I'm good. Listen, Sim, I work full time and sit next to Henry Wright all day in the office. So my life, even without Tottenham YouTube, is just Henry's brilliant at it. Have you seen this? Have you seen what Ornstein said? Have you seen what the Spurs have said? And it's like, Henry, we're doing some work. No. Listen, what do you think? So,
No escaping it.
Yeah, I don't miss anything. It's like having Sky Sports News on, man. It's brilliant. But thank you for having me on. I love the show, man. Love the show.
No, thank you guys for giving up your evening, especially on a nice sunny evening like that. And all you guys out there tuning in as well, you should really actually be outside enjoying the weather. But thank you very much for choosing not to and choosing to tune in. But look, we are going to make good time with everyone's time, because we want to get everyone off before the big Champions League game tonight, so that we can watch Chelsea get another footballing lesson. I think we'll all agree that will make us a bit more happier this week. So if you do like the topics and you want to get involved with it, just simply engage with us in the comments with your comments. We will bring them up. But if you want to support, or you want to make your comments stand out and get a great discussion on it, feel free to get that in with a super chat, or feel free to grab a channel membership to help support everything we're doing here. But look, Jacko, over to you, my man. Take it away.
I think the reason people aren't outside, Dave, is because Spurs have basically kept them indoors. You know, nobody wants to go
Can't
outside.
walk out with your jersey, can you? You'd be slagged everywhere.
Certainly can, especially on
Not
Champions League.
Force fans slagging me. I mean, who gave them the right to slag me? You know, it's embarrassing.
Dave's looking for a chance to get outside. But the Athletic Football, everybody, they're talking about Harry Kane's future, and they're saying one of the many factors THFC have considered when appointing head coaches in recent years has been what the new man would mean for certain Harry Kane. But how much of a consideration should he be actually this time? Do you feel like, Sim, is it now maybe the time to consider a more longer term view without Harry Kane when looking at the manager?
100%. I think everyone can agree that Tottenham is not going to be a quick, easy fix. So we're going to need a bit of a project. We're going to need to completely, like for the past, let's say, since 2019, so the past 4 years, we've been playing very pragmatic, defense first, not possession based football. And that is going to have to be completely, I guess, recoached or coached in a different way to how we've been playing. And we know that there's going to have to be a fair bit of turnover when it comes to the players, and it's not going to happen in one window. So I do think when we're looking into the new manager, we are probably, I think the most important thing for a new manager is the way we play football. That's the most important thing. Obviously, being a long-term project is important as well. But I think getting Spurs playing progressive possession-based football that the fans want to see, being on the front foot, taking risks, scoring goals. That is what the fans, albeit, do want to see number one. So if it was a choice between a long-term project who was maybe not as progressive, or a short-term project which was progressive, I think we would rather short-term. But we know that we need a long-term project at this club because we've been chopping and changing managers for too long. We need some stability. We've got a lot of young players as well, which we've been mishandling for the last few years. And I think it's very important that we have a manager committed to a long-term project, because Mourinho and Conte have been very much. I'm here for a good time, but not a long time. But they didn't even have a good time. So they were just here for a short time. Exactly. What I would say in terms of appeasing Harry Kane, signing manager, I don't think Mourinho was signed to appease Harry Kane. I think Kane was probably happy under Pochettino, and I think just the way things were going under Poch led to the board to believe we needed a change. Albeit, I believe the board failed Poch more than the other way around. But I do believe Conte, that appointment was definitely in part to try and reinvigorate Harry Kane 100%. Okay. I do agree with that. We couldn't continue that season with the way Harry Kane was playing and expect Spurs to get anywhere close to where they wanted to be that season. So I do think part of the reason was to appease Kane. And that is it's a big question going into the summer. Is what is right for Spurs right for Kane, and vice versa, in terms of what we want? Does Kane want to sit through another project at Tottenham, potentially 2 or 3 years before we're really competing for big trophies? But does Spurs want another manager who's going to come in and try and win trophies as soon as possible to satiate Kane, when maybe that's not exactly what Tottenham need right now? Maybe we need a slower burn, a project that's going to kind of gradually progress. So I do think the club probably need the latter. The question is, does Kane really need the former, or is that what he thinks he needs? I think a lot of the, if you ask a lot of the football fans around especially in the Premier League or around Europe, they'll probably say Kane needs trophies now. He's 30, or he's going to be 30 in the summer. He doesn't have time on his side when it comes to waiting for another project. If he's going to win, he's going to have to win now. But what would I argue? There obviously is truth to that, but I do think the way Kane is, I actually think that Kane has many more years left than maybe people think. I think you look at the top strikers like Benzema, like Lewandowski, they're like 34, 35 and still at the top of their game right now. So I do think Kane has many, many years left, and I don't think it's either he wins next season or he's never going to win anything. But I wouldn't be able to blame him for running out of patience. And if I was him, I probably would have run out of patience by now. And also, he probably wants pressure lifted off his back for carrying us for so long.
I think that question you brought up there kind of hits the nail on the head of, is what is right for Kane right for Spurs and vice versa, right? And can it be both, or are those things kind of separate, from each other? What do you make of actually that question, Sava? What is right for Spurs? Can that also be right for Kane, or are those things kind of separate, do you think?
I think first and foremost, I'm at the stage, only me personally, where I'm a Tottenham fan, right? Yes, I love Harry Kane. Harry Kane's one of our all-time top goal scorer. But I think this whole narrative around what we've got to do to keep one man happy is a complete loggerheads with what everyone is calling for. I don't want to keep one man happy. If upsetting one man is the greater good of the club, then fine. If you can incorporate keeping the club happy and keeping Harry Kane happy, more the better for Tottenham Hotspur. But look, Harry Kane's played under great managers. Yeah, he's played under some really bad ones as well, but he's played under some great managers, right? And we always have this conversation as fans, don't we, as to, will Kane stay if Company gets the job? Will Kane stay if Enrique gets the job, who's a winner? He's played for winners. I don't think Harry Kane is that stupid that he thinks, even if you bring in Pep Guardiola, that we're winning in 1 year. I don't think he's that naive anymore. He may have been when he was younger, but I think he's been there, seen it and done it now. And this is purely a case of what is right for Tottenham Hotspur. We've got to, look, I see lots of comments on loads of different YouTube channels on Facebook and Instagram and whatever, people going, oh, how many more projects can we have? And what should the next manager be? Look, every manager that comes in is working within their own mini project anyway, right? Because they don't, unless you're lucky to go and pick up the Man City job when Pep leaves, right? You're not picking up a star-studded squad. You're picking up a new job for a reason, right?
Correct.
So for me, I don't care for the word project. I just want a manager that wants to come in and build something and wants to implement an ethos. And Dave's probably really bored of hearing me say this, but I want a manager to come in, implement a plan and an ethos that when that manager then leaves, whether it be 18 months, 2 years, 3 years, the next manager that comes in follows that plan and is of a similar ilk. And we all start going, what is Tottenham? Tottenham, where they're a free-flowing passing team. What are Tottenham or Tottenham press? Is that player over there a Tottenham player? Because last thing I'll say, I don't want to talk too much, is I was so bored of hearing this isn't a Conte player. This isn't a Conte signing. Because for me, that always told me that what we were doing under Conte was so short term that there was no vision.
To the manager. Yeah.
But I don't want to be beholden to the manager. I want to be a better Brighton.
I agree.
When Brighton sign players, right? When Brighton sign players, you know they're Brighton players. They don't buy duds.
So is it up to Harry Kane to get behind the ethos?
Apparently, Brighton have a spreadsheet with 3 replacements lined up for any position. Apparently.
Yeah.
Spurs can barely take 3 weeks to, figure out which manager they're willing to call or contact or email. Basically, it's so many. I would actually say we are very much guilty of probably being that corporate kind of effect of subcommittees to the main committee to the original committee and all those kind of things. But Sava, just quickly, do you feel like you said, Spurs fans as well as the Spurs board can't just get obsessed with catering to Harry Kane and trying to make him happy? They have to think about the greater good. Is it then up to Harry Kane then to think of the greater good? Like, while he might have his own wants and needs of trophies, etc., if he wants to be at Spurs, he has to get down with whatever plan and direction Spurs are in. That's, you have to be a team player. You have to be part of the whole project.
Yeah, of course. And I think he is. You know what I mean? I think he is. I think he always has been. I think the questions that we've got to ask ourselves more about, look, our forward line in terms of Kane and Son hasn't changed for 8-9 years now. Or I don't know. Is this Son's 8th season or
2015,
right.
8th season.
2015, 8 seasons. Now, most clubs freshen it up, right? Most clubs will freshen it up. Most clubs can lose big players without their fans going into complete manic depression and, oh my God, what are we going to do, right? At Spurs, at some point, we're going to have to make a decision depending on the manager, i.e., I'm not saying this guy's coming in. I'm just using a hypothetical before everyone in the chat berates me. If you bring in a Luis Enrique's game is tiki-taka, right? And more than anything, it is press from the front. Yeah, it is that whole kind of Barcelona ethos of if you lose the ball, win it back in 3 to 5 seconds. So now you've got the question of, can you do that with Kane and Son in your team? Right? And listen, I'm not saying get rid of either of them. I'm just saying it all depends who the manager is. We might get a manager that goes, you know what? Kane and Son should be a strike partnership. We're going to play a 2. But that's why at the moment we're all guessing and what we should do next season. None of it. It doesn't really matter, does it? Because until that next manager is announced or comes through the door, we don't know what ethos, because Enrique's style of play is going to be so different to Ruben Almiron, for example, at Sporting Lisbon, which is going to be so different to, say it quietly, Brendan Rodgers' style of play. Do you know what I mean? Like whoever it is.
Be happy.
Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't have said that word. That's going to cause so much fuss. But look, it is what it is. Let's see who the next manager is. I just think that we need to come together as a fan base now, and we need patience. And I said to you, I know, Dave, me and you have disagreed on this many times.
Yeah, a lot.
But Conte for me wasn't the guy that gets afforded the patience, because he's the win now manager that stays at clubs for an average tenure of 18 months.
Anti-patience of anything.
Absolutely. He's the one you go, right, there's 700 million, go and win a title. So I think patience and Spurs fans don't mix. So let's see. Let's see how we get on in the next, after we lose our next 3-5-0. Let's see how we get on with that.
Dan
look,
Coy's grabbing the. Yeah, Dave, what were you going to say? Because Harry
no,
Kane.
go to them first, and then I'll have my say after.
Okay, Dan Coy's grabbing that flat cap membership, and he said had to rejoin as a member. Back though, come on, you Harris Army, Dan. I would say one of the little few perks that you could get actually is that the podcast coming out tomorrow, you might get a few special clips that only your eyes can see, my friend. You know, maybe a few more obscenities about, you know, the likes of Moonhead and things like that, you know, for your extra buck if that helps. But big yourself up, Dan. Really appreciate your support, my friend. And honestly, these last few games of the season, Dan, I know you're a regular match goer. Let me know if you have any interest in going to the last games of the season. Neville here with a super chat saying need to build for the future, have to rebuild without Kane. Coach is key. So it seems like Neville's kind of on the page that a lot of people are on here, Dave, where it's like you have to consider the future without Kane. And are people going to be surprised to hear that maybe you are also preparing for a future without Kane yourself, Dave, being Harry Kane's #1 enthusiast, his biggest hair lover and everything? Are you preparing for life without Kane?
Look, first of all, big up, Neville. Haven't seen you around in some time, my man. So hopefully life has been treating you well, and hopefully you're keeping well, brother. Look, for me, I think when you look at the situation, right, Kane's got 1 year left on his contract. I think the club would have a good I would hope they would have a good general feeling on whether they think Harry Kane's going to renew the contract or not. But in all honesty, I find it hard to sort of enter into this sort of topic with good faith, knowing that we're talking about a player that's given the service he's given and maybe potentially rebuilding without him when the club is in the midst of offering Eric Dyer a new contract and Sanchez has, gotten, maybe let off the hook a bit on the weekend because people didn't agree with the booing and stuff like that. So I do find it hard to enter this sort of conversation in good faith. But regardless of whether Kane's staying or not, I think we're at a point where the club should appoint what's best for the club, a long-term vision. We've gone down the Jose Mourinho route, the Conte route. It just hasn't worked, and it will never work because we don't want to fund or fix the issues as quickly as these managers want it done. So there's no point in persisting with what we've persisted with for the last 3 or 4 years because it's just getting to the point where the club is on the verge of imploding. We're on, we've been up and down like a yo-yo the last couple of years in terms of inside top 4, outside of top 4. The players just, all it does, the only unity you actually see in the dressing room by doing it is players clamoring together to get a manager sacked rather than actually go and win something underneath that manager, which is a huge problem for me. If they put that same energy into on the pitch, maybe these managers would fare a bit better. However, the next appointment has to be long term, and Kane either signs and wants to be with that or he doesn't. However, I will always highlight, you take Harry Kane out of this team, you're going to feel the effects of it for 1 or 2 years. You're not talking about strikers coming in and filling these goals. You need 2 strikers. You need more output from your wingers. You need 2 cams probably in here to help with the creativity that he offers in this team. So there is a huge knock-on effect with not having Harry Kane. Where I would prefer us to keep Harry Kane and work with the next manager. I don't think you have to sell Harry Kane and rebuild. I think you could still have time to rebuild that winning team around Kane and Son. I don't think we have to take time out of being a top 4 team or a top 6 team for a little period to rebuild to get it back up there. If we can already be in and around there now with the season we've had, why can't we just sort of build on that, get rid of the shit players, bring in good players, and move forward? I don't think we have to do it without Harry Kane. And I would say I think I get the decision comes down to Harry Kane and whether he wants to sign or not. But there's always a lot of talk about Harry Kane and we should move on. But I'm getting concerned that we want to move on the good players, or we're very quick to sort of, let's just move on without them. But then, we find all the reasons to why Dyer's getting a new contract, this, that, and the other. And it's like, that's not the route we should be going down. We should be actually realizing the danger that we're in, and actually try and get this guy committed to whatever project comes in. And to Sav's point, look, I take the point about Kane and Son. Do they have it in them anymore to be able to press from the front and also, contribute in the attack and play without losing anything to the game? I wouldn't say it's a case that they can't. I would say it's a case of how badly do they want to. You look at how many times we're so we're just happy to sit there. There's no pressure on the ball from the front three. Even if you sit in, you expect the movement from side to side in a coordinated manner to stop them easy passes through you. And they don't do that. You've seen with Danjuma coming on against Brighton out on the left-hand side, the impact it's had pressing on the ball, the impact he had off the bench against Bournemouth, coming in and pressing the ball. So, we do have to ask these players, you either can do it or you can't do it, because we've seen the benefits of it so far this season. You improve the back line, you can go and press whoever you want. So, it's more a case, do they want to do it anymore? Because you've got to look at Harry Kane as well. He doesn't really press in the England setup as well. So it's more of a case of, do they want to do it? Because I think they can. I think their fitness levels are superb. I think they can do whatever you want them to do. But I wonder how much, with the age they're at, how much they want to sacrifice. And I think they're more saving themselves for on the ball rather than doing the work off the ball. A bit like what a Messi does or Ronaldo has done towards the tail end of his career, where he doesn't do any pressing work. A Benzema, they sit there and they wait to influence the game on the ball. So I think it's more of a question of, do they actually want to do it, or can you get them to do it, rather than can they do it?
I just think when you turn 30, I think for most players, it's just natural that you start to manage your game a lot more. And you're not, when you're 21 or 20, like Saka and Martinelli, you can go and press for 90 minutes without any care in the world, knowing that you can run all day and all night. But when you age like Kane and Son are,
you feel it the next day.
Yeah, it's just I'm sure, fitness wise, they're not in a bad place, but it's whether they can continue for the next 2 or 3 years to press as relentlessly as they used to at that age. I think is asking a lot, and I think they do need to start managing their game and being smarter. And I think they've said that themselves. And you even look at Liverpool, they had Mane, Salah, Firmino front three for many, many years. And that front three, that's already been, and now they're starting to they're bringing in the new front three: Gakpo, Nunez, Jota, whatever. But that front three, they started playing that front three even later than we started playing Kane and Son. So they've had a front three that's been and gone, and they've moved on for it. Yeah, we're still playing Kane and Son, which goes to show they feel like that front three of Mane, Salah, and Firmino weren't able to fulfill what they needed from the front line, and yet our front three has been at Tottenham for a longer time.
Sim, this is why. Sorry, if I can just add that in there, Jack. I think the thing for me, Sim, with this as well this is why I keep saying about the manager, because look, we don't know if it's going to be a front three, if it's going to be a two, if it's going to be one up front with two out and out wide men, how wide we want them to be. If you are going to play a front three with one man, with one up top on his own and two wide men, cool. Harry Kane don't need to press. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he can press a bit, but for me, it's more important that lots of clubs now play out from the back. Lots of clubs will go out to their full backs, out to their wing backs. That's where the likes of, as you were saying with Arsenal, Saka and Martinelli. You look at Foden, Mahrez, Grealish. They close down. All the best teams close down quickly. So for me, it's not about Kane. For me, and listen, I'll get pelters for this, but guys, you know me, I don't care. But if you were going to move anyone on out of them, for me, it's Son, because I think you can get other wide left players that can do what Son does. I think you can with good scouting, I might add. But Harry Kane's, you're not getting another Harry Kane. But that's not me saying that you have to get rid of either of them. It all depends on the formation and what you want to do. But if you get a pressing manager that wants hunger and energy, I don't see that from a front three of Kane, Son and Kulusevski. I don't think that the legs between the three of them is that. So we might have to make tweaks, and people might have to get over their obsession with certain players. Just saying.
I think you can I think in other clubs you can maybe manage having one of them like Kane or Son. But I think the thing is them together, which can cause issues. Because I think you can mask a lot of if you have a player who does extra running on one side, you can maybe mask. For example, how Kante, he'd always done extra running for so many down the years, Chelsea players. So he would play in a midfield two, but it would seem like a midfield three because he'll just do the extra running constantly. So you can mask over it, and you look at all the top teams around. How many top teams who play a front three have 2 30-year-olds in their front three? I can't think of many top teams who do, to be honest. And I think that goes to show why.
Well, look at Madrid. Who Madrid have got a 34, 35-year-old Benzema, yeah?
Mhm.
But who are the two around him?
Vinicius.
Exactly.
Vinicius
Rodrigo.
Junior and
And
Valverde, right?
Rodrigo.
Or
Or
Rodrigo.
Rodrigo, yeah.
Right. Yeah, again, same in midfield. Yeah, you've got the likes of Modric. Then you've got players like Camavinga and Chouameni. So for me, I've said for ages, this team, more than anything, we need some young, hungry players with engines.
Mhm.
And that's why right now, sorry, it's completely off topic, but right
No,
now,
no.
I'd like to see a Sarr playing in midfield,
Yep.
something different rather than two leggy. Sorry, Skip and Højbjerg are both quite leggy. I'd like someone with an engine in there that can press and can harry and can turn on the ball. But look,
Sometimes young players too, Savage, just quickly to further your point. Young players are naive enough to be a bit more aggressive, to make mistakes and try things differently and sort of do whatever it takes to make an impact, right? Because they're desperate to make an impact on the game. So they might, chase after the ball with all their might, and they might just get lucky. Whereas a player who's been doing it for 10 years won't chase down that second ball because he's just, been there, done that. Same thing with maybe trying to skin past his man. He'll fight whatever it takes. If the guy tries to step across him, he'll do whatever it can, to get beyond him. Whereas other players, maybe 10 years into the game, kind of might give up, if they see that the defender is kind of, one out in that scenario. And I think those are good examples of what a young player can bring. I actually really liked your original points, though, when it came to whether we cater to Harry Kane and have we catered to Harry Kane in the past, because I feel like somebody like Harry Kane, like you said, maybe has made the mistake of believing in the win now managers before. And then that's probably been able to satisfy both sides, where it satisfied Levy and it satisfied Harry Kane. Whereas now I feel like there needs to be a manager that comes in that sort of has some type of way of convincing Harry Kane tactically that he is the right one to lead them to success. But I think it is utmost importance that Harry Kane isn't maybe catered to too much in this case. I think he has to be down with the project and down that Spurs are undergoing what is a huge sort of like surgery when it comes to the squad, a huge surgery when it comes to the direction and where we want to be. Like you said, we want to be a better Brighton. That's going to take a long time for us to get there. Hopefully it can happen sometime sooner rather than later. But I feel like Harry Kane, if he's not willing to be a part of that, he might as well make his intentions clear that, it's maybe just now too late and we had our chance with him. That's what I feel like is the case, is that Harry Kane, he doesn't deserve to go through this yet again, another rebuild. He doesn't deserve it. But also you don't want to bend over backwards too much for anybody. And I think we could have bended over backwards before for Harry Kane. Maybe there was good reason to. This time it does feel like he has to be down with the project, but it also is up to Daniel Levy and as well as the board to present Harry Kane a good project that he might be worth considering as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with that. And also, just back to the press, and before we maybe move on to the next topic, I just want to say, I think, we've developed a problem over the last few years where you're constantly relying on Kane and Son to be out there. And if they're not out there, we end up suffering the fate that we always suffer. We never win games, this, that, and the other. And I think, look, we are coming into a period where, they are a bit older. But like we shouldn't be relying on them in Carabao Cup early round games, FA Cup. If we are in the Europa League or Europa Conference League next season, relying on them for most of them either. We should be able to manage their games. We should be able to go into them games and say, we're going to give Richarlison, we're going to give other players a run out and, develop them. We can't keep relying on Kane and Son. So I think when you're looking at the pressing, I think you can pick your games with these guys at times. I think against some of the lower league teams, you could probably take them out, get younger, hungrier players in there that maybe want to do the pressing, because in them games, it is about pressing, taking the ball off at them and just being relentless. Eventually, their door will open and you'll get a goal. Whereas against the bigger teams, you rely on the likes of Kane and Son, where you might only get a few breakaways, and their experience, their nous, their genius, will unlock that door for you. So I think there is a place where we can get to that, next season, where you can pick and choose some games for these guys, because we shouldn't, I've always said this, as much as I love these guys, we shouldn't be as reliant on them as we are. We shouldn't be rolling them out every single week, because when you do that, it has a knock-on effect when come the business end of the season, because they're absolutely knackered. They have nothing to give, and that probably explains why Harry Kane or Son have never turned up in a final, because they're usually geared towards the business end of the season. They play every single game, and they're just knackered come them sort of games. So for me, I think it's a good thing that we're sort of, if we do go down the pressing route, that you sort of say to these guys, look, You're not going to play every single week. There are going to be games where we're looking for something a bit different and accept it.
Do we think we need more pressing in and around Harry Kane? Would we be able to get away with Kane and Son for one more season though? Like, could Kane and one of them be able to take on more of a pressing role? Do you think, Sim?
I think Stava makes a good point in terms of depends who the manager is. I think you can, I think you can come up with systems to make sure that you're not too exposed in any sort of situation. But I also think if we're going to play a front three and we're going to be like this pressing system, I just think I just envisage us being too easy to play around from pressing from the front with Kane and Son because they're not that energetic. Like off the ball, they're not as energetic as they used to be. Let's put it that way. I'm not saying that their legs are gone or anything like that, but that hunger to press relentlessly off the ball from those two players, we haven't seen it in about 4 years now. Or probably longer, to be honest, because even at the end of Pochettino, their pressing game had also died down a bit. So I think why Pochettino's systems and why these relentless press systems work so well is a lot of the time they do have very young players at the front of them, just constantly hounding the opposition. And it's all about inches. If they can be 1 or 2 inches closer to these defenders, hounding them down, getting tackles in, getting blocks in, that makes all the difference. And when you have, and the question is, when you have players like Kane and Son, like, do you really get the better when they're 30? Like, how much do you take away from their on the ball energy if they are pressing relentlessly? Like, do you want them to do that? That's a big question. Like, there's a reason why Messi, as Dave said, Messi doesn't press relentlessly is because he has to. At 35, he's picking his moments to use that energy to be as effective in the game as possible. And
same argument was made about Ronaldo.
Obviously, Kane and Son at 30 is a bit different. I wouldn't say that they're that level yet, but it's getting to that level when you get to your 30s. You have to start managing yourself better and to press relentlessly. I just worry that are they going to be as effective on the ball during the game? And that's what they have to think about. But if you have a manager who can kind of tweak the system in a way. And also, if you get better defenders and more energetic midfielders around them, you can kind of mask over that where maybe they don't have to do as much pressing. They can still press, but maybe they don't have to press as relentlessly as maybe they would be if they were different kind of younger players. So I do think there are ways around it, but I think right now it's going to take a lot of work to get that right.
It depends on style as well, right? Because I mean, if you look at it, for example, a team like, obviously I'm not comparing us to Man City, but teams like Man City and the great Barcelona team, they have 60, 65, 70% of the ball in games. So they're pressing in moments. It's not like we're asking them to press for 90 minutes. The problem is the last few managers we've had, our tactics have very much been about not having the ball most of the time. So you are running, relentlessly chasing. And that's what masters of the game, like Cruyff as a manager and Pep Guardiola as a manager, they love that. If they've got the ball and they're just watching you chase back and forth, they're just seeing you get more and more tired. So I think you can get away with, like, if you had Kane and Son up top, but you had a midfield that kept the ball in that kind of Luis Enrique tactic, you're fine. But there's so many moving parts to this club, isn't there? It's good fun. It's good fun.
You know what? You're absolutely spot on, Sav. And look, I've made this argument all year as well. If you keep the ball, you don't have to defend as much either. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like it comes hand in hand. But also, I just maybe one more suggestion is, even if you did want to go and press with Kane, Son and Kulu, you can't do that with Højbjerg and Skip in midfield, Perisic at left wing back. You need young, hungry, energetic players that are going to get up
behind them,
because there's no point in them pressing and then that passing behind them is on, because all that does is, make them not want to press the next time because they're like, well, what's the point? That pass is always on in behind me. So you also need the other players to get up behind them and block off the passes. So in effect, you're just making them go along. You take the ball back down and you play you go again.
It's a team thing, Dave.
Yeah.
It's a team thing. So if you take our 11 for the weekend, for example, if you look across that midfield four, if we're going to call it that, you've got Perisic at 33 who can't run anymore. Højbjerg can't run. Skip can't run. And then Porro who, whatever. Then you've got Kane, Son and Kulu who aren't naturally pressing. Then you've got Dyer who can't run. right? Longley can't run. It's like, and this is the problem. This is what I keep saying. Like, we need. I feel like we overhype a lot of players, but I feel like we need to get that hungry, fitter, younger players to come in. And this is for me. I'm at the stage where, listen, I've loved Kane, I've loved Son, but I'm also coming to the stage where I think they're coming to the end.
You have one eye on the future.
In the next 2 years. I'm not saying both of them at once, but I think in the next 2 years, you would have had them both for 10 years. And at what point do you go, right, we need to evolve a little bit here in how we play? And somebody, SOF made a great point in your comments just now where he was saying, it's a double-edged sword because if you've got Kane and Son that are playing week in, week out, that's cool, that's great, but it doesn't have a pathway to bringing in any young strikers. Like Liverpool have 6, right? Liverpool have 6 forwards, right, that rotate. Can you imagine at Tottenham if we started a Premier League game with obviously we haven't got their quality, but can you imagine if we brought in another 3 or 4 forwards and Kane and Son weren't starting in a game? Our fans would lose their mind.
Yeah, and Liverpool has 6 forwards. There's not really a drop-off in quality either, massively, between any of them.
Yeah, they don't have a Kane, per se.
Yeah.
But what they've got is lots of players that offer lots of different movements. Some you look at Luis Diaz. Luis Diaz is the guy you give the ball to, tricks the flicks, pace, beat a man. Yeah, Firmino's your guy that drops deep. Salah just causes all sorts of problems. Gakpo and Jota are a little bit more unorthodox. Núñez is a complete wild card. They've got options. You look at us. Yeah. Even when Son, who's, let's be fair, has had a poor season from his standards, we didn't have the players, or we didn't drop him or rest him and try anything else because we didn't get any young, hungry forwards to come in, like a Jonathan David. Jonathan David, who's just got 21 goals in the French league at the moment, young striker. Would we go and get him, and would he join us because we never rotate Kane and Son? So there's so many.
But we've also even
parts.
gotten upset when we've run them into the ground, Sava, and then when they're desperate for a rest, we then are like, oh, how on earth did they rest him in that game?
Yeah.
You know, that's the reason we lost them. And it's like, well, we've run them into the ground in the first
Look how
place.
crazy when we arrested Kane against Sheffield United. Everyone was up in arms.
That's where I'm confused then, because then it's like, part of it, though, is maybe the whole culture of the club as well as even the fan base when it comes to Kane and Son and players like that, where we've also struggled with accepting the future, which also lies in maybe improving the squad. We've kind of always have relied on those two just being the superheroes that bring us out of each and every game. But we need to realize that they've always needed competition as well, you know, around their shoulder, and look at other clubs in the manner that they've done it. And it's also a delicate scenario, though, because then Kane and Son, there really isn't much better out there. They have been basically the best duo in the Premier League for quite a long time. So it is hard to break that mold. It's hard to break that established sort of quo or whatever.
But the best clubs and the best, this is the problem. And I'm not saying we are this, but the best clubs, if you look at Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, Liverpool, City, if you were to have a combined look over the last 10 years at players that have come into Man City, all of those top 5 clubs, and left that within that time that Kane and Son have been here, our fans would have we'd be having hissy fits at the caliber of players that they bring in and then go, all right, you've had 2 good years. Go on, move you on. And I'm not suggesting, by the way, before everyone goes mad at me, I'm not suggesting you move Kane on, but I'm just saying we haven't. I'm not shut up, you. It's just we haven't tried anything for nearly a decade now to mix it up, try something different to, you know.
Took forever to get a Richarlison.
You know why though? Because we've rested on our laurels. Like you look at Man City, it's like, okay, we need someone else to come in on the right wing just in case Mahrez isn't doing it. For instance, go and spend 40, 50 million, bring that guy in. We don't do that. We look at it and go, okay, Kane and Son are fine, but we've got issues at centre back, issues here, so we need to go.
Let's get Dan Juma on loan,
You're never in a position where you're actually able to bring in guys to run the competition or spend that money that are bringing in guys that are giving them good competition for their money. They're always spending money on guys that are coming in here and never, ever really going to be able to give them a run for their money or produce what they produce. Now, I know we've done it with Richarlison this year. But when the opportunities has come around to sort of rest Kane, he hasn't been fit
Yeah, he's
whatsoever.
failed
And
to
then when
be
he has
available.
played, and unless he's done pressing or that, it's been largely underwhelming. So it's kind of like, but what we need to do is we need to do more of that, where we look at it and go, okay, 50, 60 million, no problem. Let's bring in competition for this guy, because we can drop one, bring in another. But that's a huge problem at the club. But look, let's move on, because I do want to talk about another issue at this club and why it's taken us so long to even get to an interview process. But we'll just grab these super chats from Neville first. He says, Dave, I've been getting over the game. My son and I watched in January against Arsenal. We had no fight, enjoyed being in London, and enjoyed the stadium tour. Well, you know what, Neville? I feel sorry for you, actually, paying all that money and flying all that way to get you and your son over for that shit, for that capitulation, I would just urge everybody, don't waste your money going to any more games this season. Stay at home, go off, do something with the family. You'll get much more fulfillment and enjoyment out of it than watching Tottenham right now. That's for sure. But Neville, it's good to see that maybe you're finally starting to get over it, my man. But do you know what? I don't even know what to say to you. I just hate when I see people making that length of a journey and then you see that shit. It's not like I get annoyed making the journey from Ireland, let alone from where you're from, Neville. Big yourself up, my man. But hopefully you and the son just enjoyed maybe even just seeing the stadium and being around it and soaking up a match day atmosphere. Liston Hines says, what did Kulu do in Rome today? Talking to Mourinho.
I saw Christian Romero was in Italy. He looks like he took a little bit of a trip out there. And then I didn't see Kulusevski taking a trip to Italy either. But I know Romero was just in Italy, and he was actually on a the Sicily boat. The rowboat. I don't even know. I'm sounding stupid because I've never clearly done it before, so I don't even know what it's called. But that guided tour in Sicily.
As much as I love Romero. But this is the problem. We've seen these guys going to James Bond premieres. Go to the training pitch. You can't execute basics, so be on the training pitch. Stop being off here, there, and everywhere. I'm not saying footballers can't enjoy their life, but when it's going wrong, sacrifice. Train harder. And then once you're winning, go and enjoy your life. It winds me up. Liston. But big up, my man. And then we've got Dermatron from THFC Till I Die says, as I said before, we are at the crossroads this summer. Where we need to take the right road and start the rebuild yet again. Big up to the panel. Come on, you Spurs. Look, I'll let one of you take that if you want. If you want to have a say on this. Seems like we're on that crossroads.
Just one thing I'd like to say really quickly on this. I agree with him. It's just the word rebuild I disagree with. I've never agreed with this word rebuild. I don't ever know what we've been rebuilding from. We've not had success. Rebuild is what Man City do when they lose 3 or 4 of their best players. Liverpool are in a rebuild from winning Champions Leagues and leagues. Right? What are Spurs rebuilding from? We never finished building. We're when you go on holiday to like Spain or Greece and you see all those houses with the iron rods out the top. Because if you don't finish building, you don't have to pay insurance on the houses.
Yeah.
That's us. We haven't finished building yet. So, but I agree with him. I do agree with him.
Yeah, I know what you mean, because also if, like Sava, you say all the time, if Spurs have no direction, in the first place, then what are they really building from if there's no real direction or ethos at the club? I would say too, actually, everybody in New York, every single landlord and every single property owner, they always leave any sort of construction up in front of the building for exactly that reason. Spot on. I like that you caught on to that. But get on to the next topic here, everybody.
Just quickly, Jacko, people are saying, Dave, what's wrong with it? It's their days off. They shouldn't have days off right now. That's my problem. They should be in working extra hard. They get paid 50 grand a week, if not more than that. No days off when things are going bad. None whatsoever. Go in there and work even harder.
This is the managerial search we still have to talk about, everybody. This season has highlighted that there is so much, dude, I think, in the summer. Oh, sorry, wrong question, everybody. According to Dan Kilpatrick,
what are you reading?
Wrong script. According to Dan Kilpatrick, Spurs are planning to rival Chelsea for Luis Enrique by holding talks with the Spaniard over their vacant head coach position. Enrique is leading the choice, or is the leading choice of Spurs' managing director Fabio Paratici, while Daniel Levy is currently taking charge, actually, of that head coach search, while the Italian is on leave currently while pending his appeal. But what do you guys think? Do you feel like Spurs have been kind of dragging the managerial hunt for a certain reason or two? Could it be this Paratici appeal? What do you think, Sava?
Oh God.
And also maybe use Chelsea as a comparison case study. If that's fair.
Badly run, Sava? No way.
Is it fair to use Chelsea as a case study in comparison?
No. You can't use Chelsea. Chelsea are playing their own computer game over there somewhere. Let Chelsea do Chelsea. Look, I think the difficulty is, look, it's that silly season, isn't it? Where we're the worst, us YouTubers. You know, we want the content. We want something to talk about. We want to look at every rumor, and we want to all pretend, all football fans, that we know what's going on. Let's be really, really honest. None of us know. So far, we've heard from reporters that Nagelsmann's the number one choice, and then Company was the number one choice, and Potter is the number one choice, and Enrique. Look, I'm pretty sure they're all going to be somewhere in and amongst that mix in terms of chatting to. I'm sure there's lots of truth in a lot of what they're saying. I'm sure Spurs are speaking to Luis Enrique to find out if he's the right man. He might be wanting to speak to us to find out, hang on, I've seen what's happened to my mates Conte and Jose over there. What's in store for me? Equally, this whole thing about should we have had a manager in by now? We should have had a manager in place. Look, we don't know if the number one manager Spurs want is in a job, right? For example, if let's again, the hypothetical game before I get shouted at. If Vincent Kompany is Tottenham's number one choice, for example, or if it is Arne Slot, or if it is Almiron at Sporting Lisbon, I'm just chucking names there, right? They are all in jobs in the business end of the season, right? With 7 or 8 games to go. None of those clubs are going to entertain letting their manager leave and join with 8 games to go. Burnley are chasing a title, right? Burnley are chasing a title. Sporting Lisbon, I don't know what Sporting Lisbon going. Surely something at this stage of the season because
they're still in the Europa League, right?
Europa Conference League.
Right, there you go. Europa Conference League. You know, you've got Slot with Feyenoord at Holland. It could be that the manager is in a job. It could also be that managers like Pochettino, Enrique, these people that haven't got a job have said, you know what? I'm interested, but don't let me take over that shit show with 8 games to go, right? Yeah. Because what good comes of it for them? As a manager, would you want to pick that up with 8 games to go? I'd want to go in at the end of the season when contracts are running out, everyone's coming back, and you go, right, get rid of all of them. Yeah, I wouldn't want that job with 8 games to go. So I think we've got to give the club a little bit of a pass on this one. I don't think it's as simple as just saying we should have a manager in place right now. I don't see what difference it makes at this stage of the season.
Interesting. What did you make of what Sava said there, Sim? Do you feel like there is maybe an excuse, or there is actually an explanation, maybe not an excuse, but an explanation for why it's taken a while?
There's an excuse, but it's entirely like our own fault. But yeah, there is an excuse. It's the fact that we kind of don't know what's going on with the football direction of the club right now. So we can't really sit down with the manager and tell him about our like projects and what direction we want to go in and whatever our strategy when the head of our football is currently banned from football. So what are we supposed to tell them? Like we can't really do
or that. The season hasn't even ended and we don't know our European spots.
Exactly. And we can't tell them, yeah, we're going to be in Champions League football. Like all these things are so idea with Harry Kane and everything is all so up in the air. We kind of need to know where things stand with Paratici, where things stand with the league and everything before we can sit down with any manager who's worth his salt and convince him to come here. Like the first thing, Nagelsmann is going to come and sit down and have if we want to have a chat, we can't even contact Nagelsmann right now. I don't think because why would he say yes right now? There's literally no reason for him to say yes right now. The only reason he would is if we can convince him that we have a strategy and a project that could maybe help us compete. But we can't tell him that until Paratici can start running football things again. So there's literally nothing we can do right now.
We need time to pass.
Managers to come here. The only managers we can convince to come here are managers who are going to say yes regardless of our strategy. And those are managers who are probably going to be desperate to come. And is that the kind of manager, I don't know, that you want right now? I just think right now Spurs are stuck because they can't really entertain managers without knowing where things stand. So we
what
are
you selling
kind
them,
of stuck at the
Sim?
moment.
What do you know what I mean? What we selling them? So we've got an Italian director of football who's in jail or wherever he's hiding. Do you know what I mean? We've got players.
There's nothing certain. Like there's nothing concrete or
Nothing.
certain at the club.
Everywhere
There's no
you
director
turn,
of
there's
football to sell them
uncertainty.
on. There's no European spots to sell them on. There's no players that are lined up for the summer to sell them on. The only thing that they can sell them on is potentially, you know, a new Eric Dyer contract, I guess, is what they could sell them on. But
It's like if they're going to be asking, you know, who am I working with for recruitment? Who am I working with in terms of like where we see this team going forward? We can't answer these things.
Yeah,
These are questions that we cannot answer. So what manager? So how can we appoint a manager when we can't answer simple questions? So I think for me, it's probably not even worth us even going into those meetings right now until we got everything cleared up, until we got our room in order. How can we start enticing different managers? It's just nonsense.
I do have a slight explanation, Dave, in the fact that I feel like there could be maybe part of the. I think this is an explanation that we just need time to pass. We need things to happen so that the manager that we're interested in can actually have certain things to point to as to where the direction is. But do you feel like it's also the case that we're not really sure who is actually leading the managerial search to begin with? Like, we don't know if it's actually Levy doing it. We don't know if it's still Parachichi doing it. Could that also be the reason why it's taking a while? Is that not even sure who is leading this manager?
Well, it doesn't help that your chairman was on holiday, which has delayed the interview process either. So, I mean, that doesn't help. You know, I'm not saying no one's not entitled to a holiday, but when you're the chairman of a football club and you've got no manager, your Paratici is fucking on a ban. I don't think it's right timing to be sort of on holiday. And I think he's got more than enough money in the bank to be able to cancel it and go another time. So that's obviously delayed the manager search because Paratici can't do it, right? So if he's on holiday and Paratici can't do it, no one could do it. As for the direction, that comes from the club. It's up to you to sell yourself to the manager. You can go there and you can say, look, this is what we're planning on bringing in this summer. You know, this is the direction we want to head in. This is our philosophy. And interview them. At least interview them. 3 weeks since Conte is gone.
But interview them and say what?
Say what, anything,
Dave?
Yes,
like, but okay, so Levy sits down. I'm Luis Enrique, right? I'm Luis Enrique. Levy sits down with me. My questions are, right, okay, who's the director of football? Who am I working alongside? What's happening with Paratici, right? All of this stuff that's up in the air. My next question is going to be, what's happening with Harry Kane and his contract? Is Harry Kane signing a new contract? I need to know if I'm working with him. Do you know what I mean?
It's a bunch of wait and sees and I don't knows.
Yeah. What can Levy possibly say to Enrique?
Yeah, look, I agree with you. I think, you know, they come with them questions. They're valid questions. But like I said, I'd like to think someone in the club knows whether Harry Kane or what the feeling is with Harry Kane. So surely they can sort of give an answer on that. As for Paratici, look, that's a bit of a different one because you can't go, well, I can sack him and get in the next guy, because if he's not guilty or if he gets off, you can't just sack him without sort of having a real proper reason to do it for what's it called? Not political terms, law, in like with law and stuff like that. So for me, like I get that, but you can still sit there and say, look, we need someone that's going to come in, play this way. Can you do it? What's your tactics? Like, you know, we can sell the club to them, but we should also be asking them to sell themselves to us. What can they do? The fact that, like, you know, we've got to realize Chelsea sacked their manager, which then for me should expedite or quicken up our search for a manager. You know, they've already interviewed Enrique Nagelsmann. We haven't even got off we're thinking about doing it. We haven't even interviewed anybody yet.
But have we not? Are we sure we haven't? This is the problem. You see so many reports a day. Do we know they haven't interviewed anyone? Also, it might be that Chelsea, right? Chelsea have identified they're our main two. Yeah. Chelsea as a sell, believe it or not, for the mess they're in, is a much more attractive proposition because, you know, you're going to get backed. They've just signed loads and loads of players, right? That's sexy. That's attractive for a manager. Going to Tottenham, surely you'd be looking at it right now going, I'm not sure I want to make that decision. Yeah.
Well, he's waiting 72 days, the answer, like they've done for Nuno as well, because we're in this very similar position to the season Jose got sacked. Mason was put in temporary charge. Paratici wasn't here till the summer and wasn't going to operate till the summer. Now you don't have Scott Munn who can't operate till the summer. You've got Stellini and Mason in charge, and we ended up waiting 72 days. And look at the knock-on effect that had going into the following season.
True. I think if it drags into the summer, I think if we get to the look, I've said this all along, from the Leeds game, which is our last game, right? I think it was the 28th of May, I want to say, right? From the Leeds game, the day after is when everything needs to be good to go. A manager in place, the director of football in place, decisions on which players are staying, which players are going, and go at it. If we get to the 28th and then we're still going, right, Spurs are interviewing managers this week, then I'll be fully behind it, because I would have said, hang on, Conte went on the 1st of April, I don't know, 1st of April, maybe something like that. I don't know. We're now 2 months later. We haven't got a plan. So at the moment, I'm not bothered. This season for me, I don't know about you guys, I don't care. This season, I don't care if we get smashed in the next 3 or 4. I don't care. It's been an absolute mess. It is a mess. For me, I'm more concerned about what happens from the 28th of May. I want the club to start acting like a football club with a director of football in place that is on the same page as the manager, that's on the same page as the owners, and that they have a plan and go, right, let's attack this market and bring players in that this manager wants, within reason, by the way, within reason, and let's start building something. But right now, does it matter? Does it matter?
You don't blame them for nothing happen. Like it's hard for something.
There's nothing they can do. It's just
I don't know what. Yeah, I'm not sure what they can do.
You can't force something to happen. And like you said, with all these managers that they're interested, that are already in a job in the first place, they're not just gonna. Also, this is the thing with these managers that are in the midst of a title race or in the midst of just finishing out their seasons. They are technically occupied with their current job. Like they are already occupied with their current kind of demands. Like for them to then go through this other huge life decision and huge career decision would seem like maybe also an unhealthy sort of distraction for what already is, huge things on their mind. So it might be unrealistic. You could get company to maybe do some of the initial sort of stuff and kind of initial proceedings, but you're not really going to get him to actually sit down and have a proper chat about the future and everything while he is in the middle of this sort of other job that he has. And I think it is the case too with the likes of Ruben Amorim and other managers. The only ones that you could do that with are Pochettino, Enrique. Exactly. Those are the ones you could realistically do that with. Nagelsmann maybe was a different scenario because it seemed like he was very steadfast on going skiing somewhere after his time in Bayern. But
the thing is why I want to expedite it quickly is because look, Chelsea have been dominant over us for years, right? Now, a manager's going to pick them over us, and I don't want to hear anyone play any silly buggers telling me it's not going to happen. Of course it is, because they'll go, I want this player, and Todd Bowley will have him in tomorrow. They're not going to get that at Tottenham, right? So of course they're always going to pick Chelsea over Tottenham. So don't tell me otherwise, because I'm not listening. But we're in a position now where we can get a leapfrog on Chelsea. We can get the manager that we want. Why are we sitting around waiting, letting them do their process, interviewing guys and everything, and we haven't even got any of that together? This is a chance to take Chelsea out of the top 6 or cement and put yourself ahead of them. We haven't had that chance in quite some time.
Let me flip it, Dave. Let me flip it then. Let's flip that. Okay, let's use Nagelsmann and Enrique as the case in point. If Nagelsmann and Enrique are in a process with Chelsea where they're having 3, 4, 5 different interviews, I don't know how many times they go in an interview. I'm sure it's not like the rest of us in the real world, right? But if they're in that process and Tottenham want to speak to you, you'll go, oh, okay, I'll talk to Tottenham, but I'll tell you what, I'm not making any decision until they've made a decision. So I think we might get Enrique or a Nagelsmann, depending on which one doesn't get the Chelsea job.
But the Madrid job is coming up in the summer as well. And
but then they might be holding out for that. Right. But if you're thinking that, and if Nagelsmann's thinking that, or Enrique's thinking that, again, you're going to take a step back and go, there's no need for me to rush. I don't know about you guys, but would you join Tottenham with 8 games to go in this mess? You wouldn't.
I hear what you're saying, but it doesn't mean they can't bring them in for a chat or bring them in to actually talk to them.
But they
and actually
are, aren't
get
they?
some discussions on the table. Well, according to Dan Kilpatrick's report today, they haven't.
Yeah, I don't know. Look, I don't know. I'm sure there's conversations that are going on behind the
Paul
scenes.
O'Keefe
with
has said
agents
today that
and-
it's happening internally. Yeah, that they are having more
Yeah, and I
conversations.
think that's all you can really do, just internal discussions around who you're deciding on the manager before you can really start approaching people, before you got your house in order. They need
Yeah.
to make sure when they approach these managers, they have everything in place to answer all their questions. And right now, we just don't have those answers. So how can we convince them? And it's like with Chelsea, I feel
they
like
just
with the
being loud
Chelsea
about
job,
it?
it's not with the Chelsea job. It's not so much Chelsea convincing these managers. It's the managers convincing Chelsea they're the right person. But with us, we have to convince these managers that we're the right club for them because we burnt so many bridges before. So if you're in the position of convincing a club, the manager to come join you, you have to make sure you have everything in place to answer their question to convince them. For Chelsea, it's different. The manager is more having to convince Chelsea, I'm the right man for you.
But if that's the case, then you should be operating quicker and smarter to get ahead of that.
Agreed.
But how can we when the director of football, we don't know who the director of football is. So this is my only complaint. For me, I would have sacked Paratici. But then again, listen, I'm not an expert with law. Can we legally sack him with what's going on for that? Or would we have to wait? Right, exactly. So this is what I mean. There are so many moving parts that I don't think it's just as simple, Dave, as saying, tell you what, we want Nagelsmann, come and join us. Because they might have, I'm guessing, that Nagelsmann, who's been at Bayern Munich, has big aspirations. And I'm guessing if it's between, as you said, if it's between Tottenham and Chelsea.
And potentially Madrid.
I can see Spurs being the least attractive person in that threesome. Do you know what I mean?
I agree. I think we will be the least attractive. I still think we could have had managers brought in or started the interview process right now. I'm not saying have a manager in right now, but they could have at least started the process. Like, we're only starting it after Chelsea, and people are going to say, well, how do you know we haven't started it? Well, I mean, look, it was delayed because Daniel Levy was on holiday. So there's a good indication that we haven't started it yet because the guy was on holidays. And it's kind of like, this shit should not be happening. We could at least be out there and be in contact and have a plan and start the interview process sooner.
I reckon they have. I reckon they have, Dave. I reckon they're talking. I fail to believe.
Do you feel like they're just not being as loud about it as like Chelsea are, Saba? That's the thing. Like the rumors with Chelsea, like Fabrizio Romano just the other day had to claim, by the way, Chelsea aren't interested in this player, everybody, just as an FYI. They're not interested in this player. That's kind of maybe the two different ways, is that Chelsea are linked with everything that moves and are basically reporting, there's just leaks everywhere. Just they're associated with everything regarding any sort of player or manager. Whereas Spurs, maybe it's just a bit more tight knit when it comes to all of it, maybe media wise. Not sure.
Yeah, but look, I fail to believe that Tottenham Hotspur, having mutually agreed that Conte was leaving, whatever word you want to put in there, 3 weeks ago or whenever it was, have not been speaking to agents, have not been speaking to middlemen, have not been sounding things out. I just don't think it's. I feel we've burnt so many managers now. I don't think it's as attractive as it was.
No,
if you are a top manager, the first thing I'm doing is what all of us fans are doing, is saying, hang on, Conte went there, right? Jose went there. They've all left very quickly after joining. Poch was there and wasn't backed. I'm gonna wait and see. And listen, this is the thing. If we want them to rush, go and get Brendan Rodgers. Right? Who's immediately available that will take Rodgers will take this job like that. I think Graham Potter would take this job like that. But if Daniel Levy did that right now, can you imagine the backlash as opposed to possibly waiting? I'm just trying to agree.
I can agree. I agree with you there. I actually agree with you there. I'd rather us be more frugal about it rather than rush. And I'm not saying rush to an appointment right now. I'm just saying You know, why
Talk
are
to
we
them.
waiting so long to expedite it? Like, why can't we speak to managers, see what their feeling is towards us, see what they're looking for from us, see if we can offer that, and just open the dialogue, open the communication, start interviewing managers and see what's the best fit for Tottenham. Because by waiting for Chelsea and you know, Chelsea getting on it ahead of us, now you put yourself in a position where we can offer them the job, but they're just going to accept Chelsea if they offer it, and we're getting second best. And for me, I don't want it to be like that. I just think we could have started that process sooner.
If I were,
And look, if we're waiting, if they've already sort of, a manager's agreed to take charge at the end of the season and they just can't announce it now, fine. You know, I can accept that 100%. But, you know, if that's not the case, I don't understand how Bayern Munich can sack a manager after us and get another guy in place, how Chelsea can sack a manager and already start the interview process and we haven't. And yet our chairman was on holidays where the people in their club were looking at getting a manager in here. And that was their first.
They got their houses in order. They got their houses in order. We don't.
Many people,
We
many
do.
people
You want to say they don't, but it's only because their chairman just signs here, there, and everywhere. Obviously, his decision making is questionable, but in terms of like director of football, all these different things, they know what they can offer. We don't. We just don't know what we are right now.
And they haven't got a new. Let's be fair. As much as we talk about it, as far as I've seen, I haven't seen anyone with Chelsea. Anything's been confirmed. They put Frank Lampard in charge.
Exactly.
So if right, look, the difference is as well. If we're going to use Bayern Munich, right, as the example,
I'm not using them as an example. I'm just saying, you know, look how quickly they act and look how quickly they're onto it. We haven't even started it yet.
Yeah, but
and we're in danger going another.
They're in a position where they can offer Tuchel the job, and he'll take it. We're not in that position.
Yeah,
I feel like if I were to understand where Dave is coming from, I think Dave is what you're trying to say is like the rumors around Chelsea have been like Chelsea are in the middle of talks with Enrique and Nagelsmann, where like Spurs' rumor is like Spurs are considering picking up the phone to talk to like Nagelsmann in the first place. It's like Spurs are like considering after weeks of picking up their phone and looking at their messages where like Chelsea have the guy in the room.
Yeah, I think if Spurs come calling for you, if you're again, let's use. I'm the only reason, by the way, everyone in the chat, I'm using Nagelsmann and Enrique is because apparently they're the two that are the favourites for Chelsea. If you are Nagelsmann and Enrique and Spurs come calling, I think it's kind of like when you're at work and you get an email and you think, I don't need to deal with that now. Yeah, I'm busy. I don't need to deal with that now. Right. I'll come back to that. So for me, it could be that Spurs have approached, like, i.e., we're hearing, again, it's all room, right? It's all conjecture. And that's what I love about being a fan. You're hearing that Pochettino doesn't want to come back, right? You're hearing that we've approached company and company has said, no, I want to stay at Burnley and work with them in the Premier League. So it could be a case that Spurs have identified managers they want, have approached and been told, no way. Yeah. And then the next choices are, right, who are the next choices? So if it's not company and Poch, right, now you've got who's available, Rodgers or Potter, right? Who else? Realistically, other than those two, are immediately available that fans would be happy with coming in right now?
Poch.
Right, but what I'm saying is in this scenario, what we're hearing is that that's not viable, that's not going to happen. So I'm saying other than Rodgers and Potter, who are free agents, who out there right now could Spurs just go, hey, you're not in a job, come and join us. And our whole fan base goes, oh, I like that. Oh, I like that, Mr. Levy. Well done, right? Because that man's under some serious pressure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Who is it?
Nuno, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you. What I will say is, you know, come the summer, you know, we might not just have Chelsea contended, right? You open the door, it looks like Ancelotti and Real Madrid are going to part ways. They come in. How many other clubs are going to come in? And that puts Spurs further down the pecking order, and it's dangerous to play that game, you know, because then you might lose out on your first, second, third, and fourth target if that's the case. You know, so for me, I just think we're playing a dangerous game, and that's why I would want us to get ahead of things and speed it up, because you've already seen Bayern do it quickly. Chelsea now are in the process, and look, according to media reports, they're further in the process than us. So we can't afford to fall much further behind. And if Real Madrid are going to come in and other clubs, we're leaving ourselves into a dangerous situation. I don't want to see that happen. And
this is what happens.
I don't want to see
this is when you're directionless, I guess.
You reap what you sow.
This is what happens with years of mismanagement. This is what happens when it's the same as anything in life. If you keep making enough mistakes, when people lie, if you keep lying and you keep lying and you keep lying, eventually you're going to trip up, right? And that's the equivalent of Tottenham. We brought in director of football who whatever we think of him is now in all this trouble.
We're paying the price for all this.
With that, we've burnt managers before who were serial winners, and now other people are going to judge us on that. We've got players that we don't know if they're going to be here next season or handing transfer requests. We've got to deal with that. If I'm a manager, Dave, only for me, if I'm a top manager with expectations to win things, Tottenham right now can do one. Tottenham right now are going to be on my, if every other girl in the nightclub turns me down, I'll meet you at the cab office, right? Just checking my wife's gone out. My wife's gone for dinner, right? Probably meeting someone.
It's a safety. Like Spurs are the safety choice for half of these guys. Like they're the one that they can go back to at any stage. Like if all else has fallen through, but it is us paying it's our position because we're paying the price for the past mistakes, and we find ourselves in this position because of previous mistakes and previous so-called rebuilds, even though I know that's your trigger word, Sava, but it's us paying the price for our own circumstances, I think, that we find ourselves in. Yeah.
Of course it is. Let me ask you, boys, if tomorrow, he announced Brendan Rodgers as manager, just you three, actually, let me ask everyone in your chat if that's all right. What's your reaction as a fan? Because I said the moment Rodgers was sacked, I said on my show, not my choice, but looks like an outstanding candidate for Daniel Levy, right? British, knows the Premier League inside out, knows the players, has won trophies at Celtic and at Leicester and nearly won a title with Liverpool and has managed a bigger club than us in Liverpool. For me, that's got Daniel Levy written all over it. He's available. If he gets him tomorrow, what is everyone's immediate feeling?
I'll let Sim go first, and then
no, definitely. For me, I'll just be devastated if it's someone like Rodgers. As much as I think he's a decent manager, he's just not the manager who would inspire this fan base to think that we could go to the next level. I don't think he's a manager who could cut we need a manager who can basically do more than the sum of its parts in terms of how we're playing tactically and offensively and bring the fan base together. I don't think he's that guy. And I think Rodgers wouldn't last too long here, in my opinion. So I don't think, for me, I wouldn't be happy at all.
Steve D.
Steve
D wants Brendan Rodgers of all people. I love it, Steve.
Steve D loves losing. He does. He loves
a few people I've seen this last couple of weeks say, hang on, this guy will steady the ship. This guy's not the worst option. Not me. Sim, don't shoot me, bro. It's not me. I'm just here causing controversy.
Where I'm at with Rodgers, right? It's kind of like, look, Levy's a big fan. He's tried to hire him on previous occasions. I've had this sinking feeling since he got sacked from Leicester that this will end up being the guy in charge. I do have that feeling. Look, for me, I think he would steady the ship. I think, he would use some of the youngsters that we've currently got. Will he keep Harry Kane around? Probably. Look, that's 50-50. I think he'd keep us up and around the top half of the table. But is he the guy that I envision us building and winning trophies under? No. And that's where my problem is. I want a guy where I see the building process, where I see that, yes, this guy, the end product, he can deliver us trophies. And for me, that's what I want from the next manager. Now, what I will say is, and I'm making this perfectly clear, because I don't want anyone to start going, Dave, you're a fucking happy clapper. I get it. I know I am. There's nothing you can say
happy
to me.
Clap,
Are you about to flip-flop, Dave?
No,
flip-flop?
No. But what I'm going to say is, I will give any manager that comes in this door a chance to sort this shit out, because look, there's a lot to do. I understand the size of the job, and for me, I will always give that manager time. Whether I believe he's the right appointment or not, I'll give my point of view on it, but I will give the guy time at least.
Yeah. Well, boys, I think we got some Champions League coming up tonight, and I know we have a good rest of our evening left, and we can't fix Spurs in one evening. Sadly, not. It's not going to be possible. It's a big mess that we're going to have to address in each and every night, and continue to find ourselves talking in and about Harry Kane's future, Sonny's future, a lot of the same stuff, but with plenty of nuance. But Sava, putting in your channel, thanks for helping us out yet again, and thank you for helping me on the fan show. Got you back nice and quick. But anything coming up on the channel that people should know about?
Just doing some different stuff, man. Just looking at a lot of Premier League stuff as well as Tottenham stuff. Just to make it clear, I'm not doing the Spurs review anymore, but I think a lot of people have taken that I'm not going to do any Spurs content. I'm just not doing the Spurs review. Yeah, loads of stuff coming up. I'm going to be a full-time YouTuber like you really wealthy young men.
We'll get you out.
And the last thing I'd say is this. Michael Carrick?
No, look, that's a debate. I could be here for an hour with you debating Michael Carrick, to be honest.
I'll take him as a central midfielder.
Yeah.
We need a tempo setter.
He can play instead of Bentancur until he's back from injury.
You know what I will say? Do you know what I will say? If the club put together like a conglomerate of Carrick, Kane, or Carrick, Keane, Ledley, King, people like that, an old group who wanted to come back and sort of try their hand. Look, for me, it'd be a little bit exciting, but I'm not sure it's what we need. But look, people, if you like the likes of the Big Six and stuff like that, and broad Premier League, broad football sort of content, Sava's on the road to 5K. Get over there and smash that subscribe button and help him get to 5K. He's a really, I really enjoy watching him. I like what he says. Although we disagree a lot, I still like streaming with the guy. It's good fun. And, maybe sometimes he says things that maybe make me think a little differently. But we'll leave it at that. But so do get over and check out the Football Heritage. Sim, there's always one person that maybe hasn't come across the channel. So, what's coming up on We Are Tottenham TV? Look, it's getting harder to say because you're approaching the 200K now. So eventually everyone's going to know who you are, but there's always one.
Nah, big up to you, Dave. Obviously, We Are Tottenham TV. We're going to give you all the latest news on the manager search, what's going on with Spurs, all the match day content of Spurs absolutely crash and burn out the top 4 race. You'll see all the reaction at We Are Tottenham TV, so you can't wait. Don't miss a thing. Big up to you, Dave. Cheers for having me on.
No, thank you, boys. I want to say thank you to these two boys for giving up a lovely sunny Tuesday evening to be with us to talk Tottenham. So massive respect and thank you to you guys. A massive respect and thank you to all you guys in the chat as well, who've also given up your evening to listen to my, unsoothing Irish voice. So without a microphone, may I add. So I appreciate you for torturing yourself and putting yourself through that. And also the support throughout the show with the likes and the subscribes and the super chats and the membership. So thank you very much. Make sure if you're watching it on playback that you do leave your comments in below for us to engage with. We have got into a very good habit of responding to all the comments and engaging with you guys, so feel free to do that. Jack, anything you want to say before we end off?
Podcast tomorrow, everybody. Anybody who has that membership, like I said, special clips of me and Dave doing some silly dances and all those things that people are talking about will be available. But in all seriousness, everybody, look out for a good podcast tomorrow.
Yeah, so that's what we're doing tomorrow. Hopefully we'll see you all back here at some stage. Stay safe, enjoy the weather. I want to say just quickly a massive thank you to everyone who's texted me over the last few days, about my sister and stuff like that. Really appreciate it. And guys, we'll see you all back here tomorrow. As always, come on, you Spurs, and in the fans we trust, because we got no one else, no manager. So I'm not saying Stellini or Mason.
See everyone. Come on,
in Brendan Rodgers we trust.
I know Pete's driving home delighted now after
Tier 1.
See you all.
Everywhere we go.